So Matthew, tell me what's going on here. So what's the preamplifier?
This is Macintosh C20 from 1960, and it's a tube-based preamp, one of the last that Macintosh produced with tubes. And this is important for 78s because it has all the different EQ curves on it. So this is your turnover, your roll-off for treble, and you need that for playing 78s. None of that was, standardized until the RIA curve, but most 78s are pre-RIA. And then this also allows me to choose the right groove wall.
A groove wall? What is that?
So, we're talking about mono records, but sometimes you'll have an old 78 and one groove, the left groove, for instance, might be way more distorted than the right groove. So that helps me actually. Sometimes you need that. Most of the time I just have it in mono.
Okay.
But it's a great preamp, really, really powerful. And, I love that it's tube-based but still has those EQ curves. And it's kind of the
But it's just a regular consumer preamp, right? It's not.
This was just on the market. I mean, that was really high-end audio at that time. That would have been the top of the line for a preamp.
And the turntable.
And the turntable, we have a SP15. Technically, this came out of a radio station, so it's a R&B radio and broadcast series. And I love this turntable. Great direct drive turntable. They have a problem with the chip in them. There is one kind of Achilles heel, a chip that, drives all of the motor, speed, pitch correction and everything.
Okay.
And pitch adjustment is really important for 78s. They're not all exactly at 78.26. So once you change that, though, this thing runs just beautifully. And you can change the speed. I have a sheet here with all the different percentage readouts for different speeds. So like if you wanted to get record to be, 78s are actually 78.26.
Okay.
So if you wanted it to be, actually running at 79.5, you would put it at 1.6% on here. And that's kind of what that cheat sheet is. But it's a great tone arm as well, the SME 3002.
It's a 12-inch arm?
Yeah, with a 12-inch arm. And this cartridge that I'm using, I have a lot of different cartridges I use for depending on the record, but right now I'm using a Stanton 500. I also like the Shure V15-3 a lot. I've found this has great sound. The problem is getting these original styli for it is really expensive.
But there are, what's that company that does replacement? Jayco?
Well, Jilco's closed now.
No, not Jilco. GICO?
Oh, I don't know. I've found I have gotten some replacements, and they're not as good. There really is an audible difference. The replacements I've gotten have worn out pretty quickly. These, though, can also go out on you. I've had the styli on these things just disintegrate on me.
Nice.
But those are also limited because you need a lot of different size tips for them. Right. So this is a 1.5 mil.
That's the stylus.
The stylus itself. And I have a whole kit of these that goes all the way up to 3.5, which is currently what's on there. This is a 3.3, it'll say on the top. So that's the cartridge that I use if I need different style. If I have something that plays really well with a 2.5, I'll use the V15-3. Though pretty straightforward there. And then the amp is where things get really interesting, I think. That is an RCA SP20, which was built by RCA and starting in 1954 and was never intended for the consumer market. Harry Olson designed this amp, which is a negative feedback amplifier. It drives two 6v6 pairs back there to get the 20 watts.
Oh, it's 20 watts.
Yeah.
That's high power for the time.
Yeah, and 5U4G rectifier tube. I've put in vintage RCA tubes on this from the period, and I
Wow.
think that does. I've heard a difference. I think that having the vintage tubes in this piece really brings it into the sound that Harry Olsen heard when it was originally designed. And it's not hard to find the right tubes for it. RCA tubes are pretty widely available. And also, I haven't done a lot of tube rolling with it, but I figure why mess with it? The RCA tubes sound good, and that's what was intended to be in them. And then finally, that drives this RCA LC1, and this is the LC1. They made an LC1A, which is the one that is more iconic with the bumps on the
Right.
On the cone, and a butterfly attachment on the tweeter. But the tweeter's right in the middle of the cone. It's technically a coaxial speaker, really early one. So the voice coils for the tweeter and the woofer are inner wound, so there is no discrepancy at all in the crossover, and it has a very natural sound to it. It's not an invisible soundstage in front of you at all. It's a kind of a window into what it feels like you're looking into the studio, but not necessarily like it's coming out at you in 3D. But there's a lot of dimensionality within that. Like, I can hear the distance between instruments really well, and a sense of perspective with it, and it just is a beautiful sounding speaker. But I never really got the sense entirely of what this speaker could do until I found that amp that goes with it. And I had this speaker for probably 3 years before I finally found this amp. It came up on eBay like a month before this place opened, and I said I have to buy that as soon as it came up. I didn't even have a saved eBay search. I just was looking into the speaker a little bit more and read about this amp again, and was like, I'll just look it up and see if it's out there. And sure enough, it comes up, and it was one of those perfect moments where I just so happened to have the money to be able to get it, and it was there, and it made a huge difference. It really is a beautiful. There's so much great symmetry between the speaker and this amp, and the way they're designed to go together. The speaker was originally prototyped in 1945, but put on the market in 1949. And again, it would have been broadcast use only. This wasn't something that would have been sold to the general public at that time. Right. So this was for studio monitoring and really, really high-end reference systems. But it's really the way that people would have heard 78s in a studio at that time, or in a radio studio, a broadcasting studio, recording studio. Not many people in the 40s or 50s would have had the opportunity to hear 78s in this good a quality of sound. I think that's something that's really important to know, is we're not trying to necessarily bring people back to what it sounded like to hear the records originally, but just this gear is the best that I've found for 78s personally, and it's also relatively affordable compared to what speakers and amps can be going for right now.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And the collection of the music.
Yeah, that's really the heart of the whole thing. I mean, these records here.
And these are all your records.
Yeah, these are all my records. These have been donated to me, to the Hot Club of New York. I think of it as the Hot Club of New York collection. And a lot of the work that I do here is going through different copies of records and choosing, the best sounding one.
Okay.
Because we'll receive large collections, and I can't even imagine how many records have passed through here. I mean, right now in the space there's at least 10,000, but I would imagine might be 4 times that have actually gone through my hands through the years. Yeah, we've received some really large collections. A collection from France, the best collection that we received so far was from France of 7,078s that were all in just pristine condition, the original sleeves. This is truly a world-class collection here. You know, all of these, for example, just gorgeous copies of the Armstrong Hot 5 series, for instance. Let me see if I can get one with, yeah, here's a great example of one. You know, this is how it came in the collection, the original OK sleeve. You can even know that's the one that was with the record, because the owner wrote the catalog number up there. And as you can see from the record, it is just in like immaculate condition. So these are truly like, you know, world-class copies of this music, and the collection is, you know, jazz from here to all the way here. We have a row of blues, and then we have more records down there of Beguine and calypso and country music and you know, gospel, all kinds of other genres, but really jazz is the focus of the collection.
And what about over here?
Yeah, over here, well, also up here, I should mention, these are all test pressings and acetates of different things. Those are more test pressings there. You know, those are early pressings or pressings made from master stampers onto vinyl. And I have a lot of album sets up here. These are all empty boxes from the sets. The records themselves are actually over here. You know, those old albums are really fragile. You know, they were not made to last as long as some of them have. These are all the records from the album sets. You know, we were talking about what an album actually looks like. You know, this is a Hazel Scott album, but that's what it would actually look like. You would have records inside of that.
That's why they're called albums.
Right. And and some of this one has notes on the inside, so that's hence the liner notes. That's a Charlie Christian. Up here, though, we have, you know, we were talking about the running time of a 78, 3 minutes and 15 seconds, but there were 12-inch 78s. So, and that's really what put Blue Note Records on the map. You know, people know Blue Note Records, but a lot of people don't know.
So 78, standard 78s are 10 inches?
10 inches, yeah.
Okay.
These are 12-inch, and, you know, this would give you about 4.5 to 5 minutes of music.
And when did that happen? When did they start making those?
They started with 12 inches pretty early. Mostly, I mean, back in the aughts, they were making 12-inch 78s for classical music, you know, to record longer pieces. It would have been rare in popular music until the 1920s to have that, and even rarer to have that in jazz and blues, though there are some, and even some country records on 12-inch from the 20s. But by the late 30s, the first jazz labels started releasing 12-inch 78s, and Blue Note started in 1939, and what made it stand out was that they were releasing 12-inch 78s of jazz. Commodore Records did it as well, though. The longest jazz 78 is technically on Commodore Records, and it's a 4-part record. Let's see if I can find it here. It's a 4-part 12-inch 78 called the Jam Session at Commodore. And the idea of this was to try to present a full jam session, you know, the spirit of a long improvised jam session. So as you can see, it gets all the way up to, that's part 1. It gets all the way part 3, all the way up to part 4 on this, you know, jam session at Commodore.
Beautiful.
So those are all 12-inch 78s. stuff I'm still going through, album sets and so forth. Some 10-inch LPs we have up here, mostly of reissues of things that came out on 78, but a lot of these will be the first release of alternate takes of things. Like this is Jelly Roll Morton's Red Hot Peppers, music from 1926, 27. So I think all of these are from 26, but it'll have different takes on here. So you have the alternate of Sidewalk Blues, you have the alternates of Dead Man Blues, and some of those alternates never came out on 78. So this is a really good way to access that music, and they sound great. I love the 10-inch LPs. Here are, our small. This is our small vinyl collection, relatively speaking, I guess. And I have a lot of original pressings of things in here, mono pressings of things. I mean, going up to the 60s, 50s, and 60s. I mean, this is an original Mal 1, for instance.
How many mono Bob Dylan?
Not here. I have them those are at my apartment. I have kept that kind of stuff at home, but, I have, let's see, have a good mono of The Bridge.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful record.
Yeah.
I have a good, I have some Coltrane up here. And then we have a lot of reissue LPs or things that only came out on LP. This is one of the greatest records ever made on any format. This has this is the first release and the best sound of an incredible 1940 session with Lester Young and Charlie Christian that for whatever reason Columbia Records never put out on 78, but it's a commercial session and it's just fantastic. And this is the first release of that, so it's it's worth having in the collection. And we have a lot of other things like these great RCA Victor vintage things. Like, these have really good sound on them as well, of music from the 20s and 30s and 40s. Have some more blues and things like that down here, including reissues of things like, what do we have in here? Things like some fun Yazoo comps and stuff. I mean, as well as some original mono pressings of Prestige recordings. But this really isn't our wheelhouse. These are just things that I picked up or that I like, or that have come to us through collections. Box sets and more down there. We have also a pretty extensive library, and a
whole other room. We don't have to go there. But,
yeah. There's stuff all over the room. I mean, this isn't a huge place, so we have to make use of every corner.
Yeah, I think you have, man, and it's beautiful.
Oh, great! I'm glad that. I didn't want it to feel like too sterile or too much like it's someone's record, like hoarder's den or something. I wanted it to feel like a nice place that people can come hang out. It's a beautiful space.
It feels fantastic.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
This is an honor
for
me. All right. Till next time.
Till next time.
Bye.